Listening to The Trade Gods.
Ooh, what's going on, Player Profiler Nation? Welcome to the latest episode of The Trade Gods. I'm your host, Matty Kiwoom, joined by my fellow Trade God brother in the morning man himself and someone I just met in person again, Jason Allwine. What's going on, Jay?
What is up, man? I was having a great morning. Or a great day. We had wake and take earlier today. It was a ton of fun. Did a little bit of a mock draft. Trade Gods rookie draft is starting. We've got the wake and take invitational league startup going on. Everything's flying, right? And I made a bad trade in our Trade Gods league. I'm not very happy about it. I totally thought I withdrew it. So we're in the throes of that right now. We're in the throes of that right now, but it's okay. I think I'll figure it out. That's why we're Trade Gods, right?
I mean, to summarize it into one action, Jason has draft date himself.
I did.
He has Kevin Costner draft date himself, but he is a trade god. Okay, right? We're going to get through this. You're going to do this. We've already talked trade to help you move on back, but we said, you know what? Just take the episode. Let's record. Let's get the trade juices flowing. Let's get the synopsis firing. And then we will, maybe you'll have something come to you, some sort of great idea on how you can get out of this draft day situation. Because who you are right now is Kevin Costner finding out that Bo Callahan had no teammates at his 21st birthday party. And you got to figure out a way to get on out of it. And we are going to figure out a way to give you the best episode ever. We have a fantastic episode lined up today. We got 10 players, 10 rookies that were just selected this past weekend. And we are going to go through each and every one of them and each give a buy or a sell based on their new landing spots, their new situations. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up today's show with a little TGIF, the Trade Gods Invitational Trade of the Week, and it's a good one, so you're going to want to stick around for that. This whole draft day situation's got me frazzled. I'm over here clicking the wrong dang videos. But anyway, let's get into it. So we got 10 players, 10 rookies, buy or sell each of these guys. Let's start at the tippity top. Someone I know you wanted to talk about. So if you don't mind, Jason, we're going to talk about Michael Penix Jr. And I'd like to go first. I'm going to get it out of the way because I need to clear the runway and let you take off. So Michael Penix Jr. was taken with the 108 by the Atlanta Falcons. I'm selling. It's not about the player. Love the player. But where you're going to have to take him, we just did a mock draft earlier today on the Wake and Take show, and he was a first-round pick. I think it was the 110.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the 110 on a guy that I just don't know what's going to happen. And I also think right now I got him at quarterback 30 overall in Dynasty. That could obviously climb up with just a few little things. It tanks Kirk Cousins stock, in my opinion, because now the uncertainty, the clouding of the situation, I would like to clean my hands of the mess and sell now before it's too late. But I know you have a different viewpoint, so I want to hear your side of things. Why or what should people be doing with Michael Penix Jr.?
I think Alan Seslowski said it best yesterday on the Sonic Truth podcast. Even if Michael Penix plays 0 snaps in 2024, he loses 0 dynasty value. In fact, he might gain dynasty value as we are getting closer and closer to his inevitable start and taking over as the franchise quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. You said it yourself. The last time we had a left-handed quarterback named Michael in Atlanta, his last name was Vic. So I think that this will be some pretty exciting unfolds. And I don't hate the pick at all, especially with everything coming out. Like, I know the initial reaction was, you didn't have to take him there at pick 8. You probably could have traded back. But then you're hearing that the teams that were trying to trade up were trying to trade up to take Michael Penix. And one of those teams was the New Orleans Saints. And if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you can't let the Saints do anything. I don't care if it's bad process. You can't let the Saints do anything. So I think it was a fine pick at the end of the day. If there's a quarterback staring you in the face and your quarterback situation is uncertain. I know they paid Kirk Cousins a ton of money, but it's still uncertain. You've got to lock down that quarterback. You've just got to get him. And so I am buying into Michael Penix Jr. Even at that end of first round draft capital, I think it's worth it because, again, I don't think you're going to lose much value. And in super flex leagues, you know, it's nice to have backup quarterbacks, especially the ones with potential. I mean, I'm sure the guys that were rostering Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers years and years ago probably weren't that upset once they finally did go on and take the field and become that guy that we're all expecting him to. So it's going to take some patience if you buy into Michael Penix, but I think in the long run, it's going to be worth it. And I mean, who's to say that Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt by week 9? I mean, he's 36 years old coming off an Achilles injury. I don't wish he gets hurt. I don't want him to get hurt, but it is the game that we're in. We had 66 different quarterbacks start a game last year in the NFL, an unheard of number. And so backup quarterbacks are extremely valuable. The Falcons were coming out of quarterback purgatory. Now they're not in quarterback purgatory. I think it's a good move by the organization. And I think it's a good move by fantasy managers to go ahead and lock in that guy, especially if your quarterback room is already figured out. Like if you have 2 or 3 guys in your super flex leagues and you can afford to roster a guy like Michael Penix, I think it's well worth it. So I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to bite the bullet, you know, perhaps lose out on the potential value with a Keon Coleman or a Jonathan Brooks and just get the quarterback.
Let me ask you this point blank period. Who would you rather have in Dynasty, Will Levis or Michael Penix Jr.?
Michael Penix.
So if you agree with Jason, then I think what we're trying to just say is he's very obtainable, and I think you can make a move for him, whether your rookie draft has happened or not. So that's Michael Penix Jr., probably the most polarizing guy of the entire draft, and it's not even his fault. It was really just the team's ability to team build in a proper fashion that really got in the way. Penix going to 8 would have been a great pick for the Raiders or the Broncos or the Vikings. Whoever had moved up, it would have been a good pick for them. So if you're going to bet on the player, Jason's saying it's okay to continue on doing so. The next guy we're going to talk about, running back from the University of Tennessee, Jaylen Wright. He was taken with the 20th pick in the 4th round. I believe he was running back 4 off the board to the Miami Dolphins. Jay, you buying or selling Jaylen Wright heading to the Dolphins?
I am so in on Jaylen Wright, and I never even realized he was the 20th pick in the 4th round. Nice. You're telling me that you got burner speed at pick 420? That's pretty awesome. And so Jaylen Wright.
Jaylen Wright's going to smoke that grass in Miami.
He is. He really is. I mean, are we really going to do this again? Last year, we had a speedster running back going to the Miami Dolphins that everyone was fading, whether it be because of injury concerns or even Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson for some reason. What? What was that about? Can we talk about that for a second? What was that about?
A lot of people missed out on Raheem Mostert because they were too concerned about Jeff Wilson late in drafts.
Just goes to show, guys, the game that we play. But Jaylen Wright, I think the thing that works in his favor is he doesn't only have the blazing speed. He's also 220 pounds, something like that.
210. He's big enough. Big enough.
And that's that's going to be heavier than any running back in that room, younger than any running back in that room, and also some tread in his tires with not much usage at Tennessee either. So I think that Jaylen Wright is going into an opportunity to where, I mean, this might be a hot take. I would not be surprised if by 2025, Jaylen Wright is out touching Devon Achane in this offense. I really do see a huge ceiling for this guy. Podfather said it on yesterday's show, The Sonic Truth. I keep bringing it up. It was a really great episode.
It was a great episode. It was a great episode.
Really was. They did a mock draft, talked really about all these players, really fantastic stuff. He said, this isn't a contingent upside pick with Jaylen Wright. This is an upside pick. Like this guy is going to get opportunities. I talked about it on Wake and Take on Monday and in the draft live stream with you. There's no bell cow in Miami. All of these guys, Raheem Mostert, Jaylen Wright, Devon Achane, they're going to get touches. And every single one of them are home run hitters. So we could see like Jaylen Wright could be fantasy relevant like week 2. And so I think right now he's an excellent value going in the middle of second round, sometimes third rounds, depending on the league you're in, and an underdog drafts going really, really late as well, a few rounds after the Blake Corums of the world, for example. So Jaylen Wright right now, I'm pretty much as in as you can be on a quote unquote backup running back.
Jaylen Wright went to the best landing spot, and it was the one that none of us even really was thinking about. We all was thinking Dallas, we were thinking Vegas, we were thinking early on. I was thinking Philly, Los Angeles, but he went to a spot that knows how to utilize speed better than anyone. And they traded up to do so, which if you're reading between the tea leaves, which, we did all weekend in Michigan, this is a Mike McDaniel selection. This was Mike saying, hey, we went edge in the beginning. We went offensive line. We've made the gritty picks, but now I want to get some flash. And he went out and got some lightning. And then we look at Devon Achane. Devon Achane, we have as, most people have him as a top 10 dynasty pick. If we're going to be that high on one guy in a situation, well, the other guy comes in, he might not be as good, did not have as much draft capital, but is more dependent health-wise and is bigger. I don't understand why this wouldn't be a dynamite landing spot for a guy like Jaylen Wright. We never were hoping that he was going to be a bell cow anywhere because he never really was in college. His skill set was more suited on, limited touches, high efficiencies, big-time plays. Well, he went to a team that could get him exactly that and get it in spades, and he's going to be able to run alongside Mostert and alongside Achane. And I think I am buying because right now it's one of those. It just like you said a few minutes ago. Like, let's not make the same mistake of last year where by the time Theo was all about Devon Achane and he was right, but if you were late to the game, it was hard to get in. So I think Jaylen Wright, this is a perfect time to buy. Right now I have him as my running back 3 in the class, or running back 2 in the class, with pretty much a floor of running back 3 heading into the season. So I love the pick. I'm trying to buy. Yeah. Next guy on the list. Oh, go ahead.
Just to say, I like that you brought up they traded a pick or traded up for him. They actually gave a 3rd round pick next year for him, and that signifies
that's significant.
A lot, right? I mean, that's a day 2 pick for next year that they gave up. I know it's like a whole year's difference, but I think that signifies how much they believe in him, that they think he's worth a 3rd round pick in the next year's draft. So I just think that's very cool. I think that you're right when you say that this was a McDaniel pick and they got a guy that they want to utilize.
Oh, that's music to my ears. Now I'm going to be saying this until I'm blue in the face that he's technically a day 2 pick. You could say he's a 420, but technically he's a day 2 pick because of what they spent to get up and get him at the mid part of round number 4. Speaking of round 4, after this guy was selected in the 7th round by the Los Angeles Chargers, Brenden Rice, wide receiver from USC, is looking more like a 4th rounder in rookie drafts, as opposed to the late 2nd, 3rd round pick that I had him at just a few weeks ago. So, Jason, are you buying Brenden Rice at his new depleted ADP?
Yeah. I mean, I was in at the expensive price, so I'm damn sure going to be in at the lower price as well. I know the draft capital isn't what we want, but I'm not going to let that, take away from this entire process. He smashed at the Senior Bowl, was more impressive to me than Ladd McConkey. Has some pretty solid college production as well. In fact, even had some special teams production at Colorado, had almost 1,000 return yards when he was at the University of Colorado before transferring to USC, where he gets a ton of receiving touchdowns last year. 12 receiving touchdowns. And then, of course, has the measurables, comes in, does all right at the combine, still related to Jerry Rice last I checked, and still got probably one of the best landing spots. Like, if you were to remove draft capital, and like, if you were to tell me a couple weeks ago that Brenden Rice was going to the Los Angeles Chargers, I would have said, oh my God, that's a 2nd round pick right there. I'm going to use my 2nd round rookie picks on that. But because he's fell so much, people are out on him. But I still think he has a ton of opportunity. And if anything, this 7th round draft pick is going to put a chip on his shoulder and make him work even harder and go into this room that is led by Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston. Get out of here. I think Brenden Rice is going to easily slot in as someone who can get some targets. And, if everything goes to plan, I mean, if he plays like he did at the Senior Bowl, plays like he did in college, I mean, he could be, probably right behind Ladd McConkey in some targets on this offense. Maybe behind Josh Palmer, maybe 3. But I think that there's some good potential here. And I'm honestly not sure what went wrong. And since I don't know what went wrong, I don't think it's fair to really, get mad at him. So I'm still going to be in on Brenden Rice.
I was pretty hot about the whole Brenden Rice thing in Detroit. I've cooled down considerably, but I'm still selling. I'm staying away. I don't want nothing to do with Brenden Rice. There is a reason why he fell. Now, it's they're the NFL and the Los Angeles Chargers are releasing content of him, revealing his like in light of him getting the phone call. They're showing him on the shows, talk about the process. So they're not treating him as if a guy who's about to have a scandal come out. So he may not be, but at the best thing, if there is no scandal, there is no huge red flag, he's still a 7th round pick when he was supposed to be a 3rd round pick. And there's something in the profile. There's something in here I am just staying away from. And the more I thought about it, I thought, hey, listen, if you can get him in the 4th, you were so high on the prospect, like, of course you should stay in on it. And then I kept thinking about it, and I've landed on this. If there is even a yellow flag in his profile that caused him to fall, there's a guy on this roster that could keep him from ever be getting the spot that he would shine in, and that's Cornelius Johnson. I've decided that Cornelius Johnson landing to the Chargers was the worst case scenario for Brenden Rice, because if there is anything that Jim Harbaugh is going to be upset about, is going to be hesitant about, well, there's a guy who does a lot of the things Brenden Rice does well in Cornelius Johnson right there with very similar draft capital, and he's going to bring the intangibles. He's a Michigan man. He is going to be the favor of this role throughout. It's going to be his job to truly lose, in my opinion. So when you throw all that in, I'm just going to stay away from Brenden Rice. And I'm hoping there's no red flag. I'm hoping it was just a complete, basically detriment to the wide receivers at USC. We saw Taj Washington also fall.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just that. But if Cornelius Johnson was taken by the LA Rams, I would be in on the 4th round value. But with Cornelius there, I think it's really, really bad for Brenden Rice and his ability to ascend to a role that becomes fantasy relevant. And there's nothing I want less than roster clogging wide receivers at the end of the 4th or try to trade for him. So I'm looking to sell Brenden Rice, but I've cooled down on it dramatically because it seems like there is no red flag. But then you look at some of the players taken ahead of him, Jay. It's like, why?
I know.
There has to be more.
I can't explain it. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. So we'll see. I actually don't mind the Cornelius Johnson call. He was a pretty consistent producer at Michigan, and it was actually revealed that he grew up a Chargers fan. He actually had I saw a picture. He had a lightning bolt hairstyle for a while when he was a kid, because he was such a San Diego Chargers fan. So that's kind of a cool path. And when I saw that, I actually started steaming him up my rookie rankings, because it's like, this guy gets to go to his childhood team, play for his college coach that he already produced for. Not saying there's much ceiling there, but I mean, this is going to be a guy that definitely earns a roster spot and could be a fun guy to hold on to through our offseason if you've got the roster space. I mean, he's definitely not getting drafted. So it'll be fun. Cornelius Johnson, fun little pull out of the hat there, Matty Kiwoom.
Right now, as I'm looking at my ranks, it's basically who wins that role is going to be the 21st ranked receiver in the class right now. I have it as Cornelius Johnson. I'm very, very excited for that. And I'm also very, very excited for the rest of the show. We have more rookies, and we're going to talk about the buys and the sells based on their landing spot. But before we do, let's hear from today's sponsor.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Welcome back to the Trade Gods. Matty, Kiwoom, Jason Allwine, talking about rookie buys and sells post NFL draft. Let's head over to my neck of the woods here, New England, and let's talk a little buy and sell Drake Maye. And Jason, please talk about they took 3 offensive skill players.
Yeah.
So let's kind of wrap it all into one. We're going to talk about Drake Maye in terms of buying and selling the quarterback. But if you want to talk a little bit about the weapons that were added along with him, feel free to do that.
Yeah. So let's rewind. Let's start with a rewind here because we've had some interesting takes about this draft process, especially concerning the New England Patriots. First off, the 103 in this year's draft was one of the more polarizing picks to begin with. We had no idea if the Patriots were going to trade back. We had no idea what quarterback they wanted. But, you know, the list goes on and on and on about how interesting this pick was. And the thing that a lot of people were getting worried about was whatever quarterback the Patriots draft, they're going into a terrible situation. But I think that's kind of changed. I really do like how they finished out their draft. Now, the offensive line is still going to be an issue, but they got themselves a quarterback in Drake Maye, who is a superhero type quarterback when things go right. Like, he can actually put the team on his back. He's got the Josh Allen type traits, the big arm, a little bit of mobility, the big size and all that. And then they draft 2 wide receivers, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, who are dogs, right? Javon Baker, especially a guy I'm really, really getting in on, a quote machine out there, talking about making wheelchair stand up, talking about how, you know, it took too long to get picked and the whole league's going to pay. I mean, I think his weapons are good because outside of that, I mean, I still like the speed that Tyquan Thornton can bring if he can just catch the damn ball. And Demario Douglas, we saw last year kind of break out as well in the slot. And who knows what could happen with Juju Smith-Schuster. Maybe he can decide to play football again. But either way, and KJ Osborne, right? And they get your guy Antonio Gibson, Ramondre Stevenson's been good out of the backfield. Hunter Henry's still there. He's a solid tight end. And I also, you could maybe speak to this, but I feel the culture shift in New England, and I'm down here in Atlanta. Like I can see what's happening here with Rod Mayo. I think he's doing a really, really good job, whether it be the interviews, whether it be the staff he's brought in. Whether it just be the type of coach he is, I definitely see him being a locker room type coach where the players can get behind and trust. And everything to me now, it's just starting to check these boxes for Drake Maye to become a good dynasty quarterback. And we're seeing him fall. Like we are seeing him fall in a lot of super flex drafts. I do think that's going to change, especially after we, the trade gods, talk highly about him. I think that the kind of trepidation around the New England Patriots landing spot is going to start to go away as we finish out rookie draft season. But for now, he's a value. And I even say for now, and probably forever, he's still going to be worth it. I do think that they got their guy with him. So I will be buying Drake Maye as the QB3, sometimes QB4 in this year's draft class.
Yeah, I'm buying too. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think you covered all the bases and did a good job. But the thing you brought up, I think that's most important, is what the Patriots as an organization is looking for and what they may allow that hasn't been allowed in the past, where Bill Belichick, as good of a coach as he wasn't always great for us fantasy gamers, where I think that the new regime, Elliott Wolf, Gerard Mayo, they're okay letting players be players. Let them make big plays and also let them make mistakes. That's what's going to be the downside of it all. But remember the trajectory of Josh Allen. I mean, he was kind of like super turnover prone. We saw it in the running game. We saw it in the athleticism. He gets Stephon Diggs and takes off. So I think that Maye, for me, has kind of settled into this player where I think for fantasy, he's good from jump because his rushing ability, his ability to play that cowboy style, he's going to make turnovers. But, I mean, there are not many leagues where turnovers kill you at the quarterback position. Let's be honest, where the plays he will make with his legs and with his arm will help you a lot more than the turnovers hurt you in our format. And, yeah, it may not work out for the Patriots because it's such a tough thing to develop. But for fantasy, I think he's going to be good from jump, and I think his ceiling is obviously great. So why wouldn't you buy in? Right now, I'm being a little bit shy. I got him at quarterback 17 in my dynasty ranks, but that really just is kind of more just a reflection of how good quarterbacks kind of jumped up into the teens, the double digits there, seeing Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak make a massive season, have a massive season. So I'm in. I think also to the receivers, Bill Belichick would never have let a kid come out here and drop absolute bars immediately. I mean, remember the video getting pissed that Gronk was having, was playing grab ass with the family, as Bill called it, and wanted him to reel it in. Javon Baker's going to come in immediately, put that swagger out there, put that alphaness on there. And then you heard Cody and Alex at the draft house talking about the importance of Jalen Polk in the room. So I think that they're taking the steps in the right direction. I wish their offensive line was a little bit better, but in terms of fantasy production, I want Drake Maye. And if people are getting hesitant, this is the time to swoop in and buy Drake Maye or grab him in your rookie drafts. The next guy we'll talk about is wide receiver from LSU, who was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 23rd pick of the first round, Mr. Brian Thomas. Are you buying or selling Brian Thomas right now?
I'm going to take a little bit of a cop-out here. And my answer is I'm going to buy Brian Thomas like week 3, week 4. I think that I'm going to let this offseason play out, and I'm going to let some football happen before I buy into Brian Thomas. Right now, his value is ranging from the end of first round to the beginning of second, depending on who has or how people have their Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, Lab McConkey rankings. It just varies from league to league. And at that price, I'm just not comfortable enough. But I do really like the ceiling that Brian Thomas can bring. Of course, last year at LSU, he was an absolute stud, scored 17 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards before. And the 2 years before that didn't even crack 400 yards. So it's definitely impressive how much he exploded last season. But, a low breakout age is kind of concerning. So that's kind of what hurts his first round draft capital. But then, of course, he comes in, he just has these measurables that are just insane. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, runs a 4.3, 340. With that size, has the 98th percentile catch radius, is really good burst, gets the Christian Watson best comparable, a player I love with explosiveness, and goes to a really good landing spot in Jacksonville, a really good pass-happy offense. However, there's still a ton of mouths to feed. And I think if there's one thing we've learned from this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, especially over the last 2 seasons now with Doug Peterson, it's that there's no alpha yet. I do think Brian Thomas can reach that, but Trevor Lawrence has pretty consistently spread the ball around. Last season, Calvin Ridley would have a week. Zay Jones would have a week. Evan Ingram would have a week. Christian Kirk would have a week. Travis Etienne would have a week. But it never really lined up, for the most part, where 2 wide receivers would have big weeks, or especially 3 targets would have big weeks. So I think early in the season with Brian Thomas, he's not going to get that much usage. I think that the Jaguars are going to try to use Gabe Davis a bit more than they would just because of the money they gave him. I think they're still going to try to work back Christian Kirk as he's finally back in the offense. I think Evan Ingram still commands a ton of targets. Now, of course, Zay Jones is gone, which is going to help Brian Thomas. But I think for the first few weeks of the season, we're not going to see a lot of BTJ. And so I would buy that. I would buy when things are a little slow, and it'll probably be maybe about the same price of what it is now, or just a little bit cheaper, because we talk on the show. Wide receivers in Dynasty are a dime a dozen. And especially in his range where he's at right now, that I think that I'm comfortable waiting a little bit to kind of watch this situation unfold before I totally pull the trigger right now.
So I'm selling Brian Thomas. In the rookie drafts that are happening, I won't have any Brian Thomas because in his range, I will take Roman Wilson. I will dive into the running back pool over Brian Thomas. So I will not have any Brian Thomas. So I'm selling him in drafts. I'm also selling him if I drafted him earlier. I'm selling him right when basketball short season comes around. In a couple months, he is going to make awesome plays, and that is when I'm going to look to sell. I think you could capitalize on maybe even selling for something as high as Jalen Waddle or George Pickens. I think his value will be there. And my problem with Brian Thomas necessarily isn't the player. I think that the role is going to be 2 touchdown dependent because now they have Gabe Davis. Now they have Brian Thomas Jr., but I still think that Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk will be the target hogs. I think those are the 2 guys that are going to get the volume. So if Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis are kind of having to fight for the deep targets, fight for that Zay Jones type of role, I just don't know if I see his success there, but he is always going to have the talent to have a double-digit touchdown season. I will say that. He'll always have that on this team with Trevor Lawrence, but I'm selling in both ADP and if I have him on my team, I'm looking to unload now or wait till basketball short season when he does some awesome one-handed catch as he jumps over somebody, because that is coming too, because he is that type of dynamic of a player. I wish he would have went to a different spot. I do, because I was starting to warm up to Brian Thomas throughout the process. The next guy I want to talk about. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I guess they didn't take it. I can't remember if there's a deadline, but they do have an out on Christian Kirk's contract this season, and then it does expire after 2025. So it could be a long game here, but I do think eventually Brian Thomas is going to be the wide receiver 1 there. And that's why I'm with you. I mean, do you remember the Quentin Johnston highlights last year?
Oh, they're sick.
I mean, like it's just the basketball short season. That's a great call. I love it. Brian Thomas is going to have a ton of those.
Yeah, well, Quentin Johnson was also, I remember him dropping the game winner in Green Bay that really just sent the season down into the pisser, which led to the 5th overall pick for the Chargers. So maybe Chargers fans can give a big shout out to QJ for getting them Joe Walt, because that dude isn't in fantasy leagues, but he is going to be a beast in the NFL. We're going to stick at the wide receiver position. Again, I'm going to ask you about Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. He was taken by the Chicago Bears with the 109. So talk about Rome Odunze, but also kind of, if you will, kind of add in what this means for Keenan Allen and DJ Moore.
Bear Claw. We're already seeing it. For those of you listening on the podcast, we are already seeing it. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze busting out this hand claw. I guarantee by July, we're going to have a secret handshake with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. They're going to be going out to breakfast together. They're going to go on brunch dates. They're going to be getting dinner together. They're going to have matching phone cases. They'll get matching fingernail polish. It's going to be a friendship. And that's going to lead to a ton of targets here. We already had DJ Moore shitting on Caleb Williams throughout the whole pre-draft process. Caleb Williams is the exact type of new age quarterback to hold grudges and just be weird about it. I'm not saying that DJ Moore is going to have a bad year, but I do think that Rome Odunze is sneakily the wide receiver 1 on this offense, at least over time. I know that's a hot take, and I know you don't want to hear that as the president of the DJ Moore fan club. But when you talk about Rome Odunze, you have the moxie, right? He was out there at the combine grinding out the 3-cone drill until he got it right. And it's been like that his whole career. I saw an interview with his dad. His dad said that he knew he was going to the NFL when he was 10 years old. Like the personality had already blossomed there. And then he comes out and has a really good combine just in general. I already talked about the 3-cone drills, but the 4.45 40, the 93rd percentile speed score, the 97th percentile catch radius, gets the top 10 draft capital, leading Washington last year in receiving yards with 1,513 touchdowns, had 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns the year before that. Some people even say that Rome Odunze was the true cook in the Washington kitchen the last couple seasons. And then Matt Harmon has the reception perception, and it's all green. This dude's a stud. And a Justin Jefferson, best comparable. I think everything is lining up for Rome Odunze to be a true alpha here. I have Odunze over Malik Neighbors right now in my rookie rankings. I don't think that's going to change. I think that this guy is an all-star in the making, and I already made a bet with Seth Dewald. I think that Rome Odunze doesn't finish any worse than wide receiver 2 on his team. He outproduces either Keenan Allen or DJ Moore. Not sure who. Not comfortable enough picking who, but I think he's going to be a stud in year 1.
I'm buying Rome Odunze because I think now the price has come down. I am buying with the expectation that it may not be super exciting in year 1. He's going to be with Caleb. They're going to have their rapport. They're going to be going through the rookie process together. But Caleb had dinner with DJ Moore. Caleb has been around DJ Moore. The Bears did this thing, which was really cool, was on one of their 30 visits, they didn't even send the coaches. They sent players. They sent DJ Moore, who led a team of players, to have dinner with him, to just get a feel for him. And you know what? I'm old. I'm 36. So like the Gen Z stuff kind of, doesn't jive with me so much, but that's just an opinion. It's not fact, and I'm not right. This is our first true Gen Z quarterback, and by all accounts, he is the man. Loved by teammates. They asked him his quote, what's the first thing he's going to do? He said, I'm going to learn my teammates' names and their families' names. Yep. The kid's a winner. The kid is exactly what the Bears needed. I'm buying all the Bears I can because I think that they're going to be tiered properly. Yeah, I think that Moore's going to come at a bit of a discount now. Keenan Allen's going to come at a huge discount now, and so is Rome Odunze. And I know I may pick wrong because I don't know if Caleb is going to have the ability to feed all 3. But injuries happen, things happen. I just think that they are all going to produce at cost given this situation going forward. So I'm in now. The problem for me as a DJ Moore guy is I was also the Rome Odunze guy. Now they're on the same team, which now I have to be a Caleb Williams guy. Do you know how expensive my Dynasty gaming just got, Jason?
You're also a DeAndre Swift guy, Matty Kiwoom, and a Roshan Johnson guy.
So my ability to acquire my guys in Dynasty went through the roof. So I now have to look in the mirror and I dismantle championship teams to get at least some shares of my guys because it's not going to come easy. There's a lot of DJ Moore teams that already have Rome Dunze. Now, do I have to go get Caleb? I think I do.
Yeah, I think you should do the easy thing and only get Caleb Williams shares. No DJ Moore, no Rome Dunze.
I already have all the DJ Moore and Rome Dunze.
That's what I'm saying.
shares.
Like, cut ties with your DJ Moores, use them to get Caleb Williams, and then you can just pretend that they're DJ Moore and Rome Dunze shares, but really they're just your quarterback.
I'm going to pretend you didn't just say me trading DJ Moore. It will never, ever happen. He just got the best quarterback of his entire career. I'm going to now sell? No, there's still unbelievable upside with DJ Moore, even with Rome Dunze being in town. Let's keep this trade moving. The first tight end that we're going to talk about today, the tight end of the class, Brock Bowers from Georgia. He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders with the 13th pick in the first round. Jay, are you buying or selling Brock Bowers?
I really hope Theo Greminger is not listening because I am selling Brock Bowers. I can't do it. I just can't do it with that landing spot. I know that we have to value talent over landing spot, and I know it's not the worst thing in the world. I do love Gardner Minshew, and I think that this Raiders team in general is ascending. I just think that Brock Bowers' value isn't going to change much, and if anything, it might get a little bit lower depending on how the season plays out. And with that being said, that's not a bad thing. Like if you just want to buy a stagnant dynasty asset, that's not bad, right? I mean, you're going to still have that value going in for the next couple seasons. And that's what we've been talking about for a few weeks here. Kind of the appeal of drafting Brock Bowers is the Kyle Pitts experiment. He comes out, of course, as the good rookie year, but then kind of sucks over the last 2 seasons and people start to hate him. But it doesn't even matter for his dynasty value, right? Like it was still incredibly expensive to acquire. I had to give up like Njoku in 3 seconds or something like that to get him. And that's probably going to be what happens here with Brock Bowers. I know they have Michael Mayer there, but we've seen 2 tight end systems before in your neck of the woods with the New England Patriots. Aaron Hernandez and Gronk were both very, very successful. Devontae Adams is on his way out. But for now, I do think that you've got to sell Brock Bowers. I can't buy in at the price currently. I don't think it's a bad thing to buy, but I don't have the balls for it. I think at cost, I'm going to take Ben Sinnott and probably take some of these quarterbacks over him in super flex leagues.
So I'm buying, and the reason being, it might be a lame duck reason, but try to go buy Trey McBride. Try to go buy Sam Laporta. Try to buy Travis Kelce all these years. Try to buy Mark Andrews. Try to buy George Kittle. It's just buying a tight end when they produce is damn near impossible. So if I can get a tight end with insane upside, if he produces, good luck, you ain't getting him. I mean, you bring up Kyle Pitts, but it took years for that to thaw out. No, so yeah, I want to get in now while there's a little bit of an entry point that seems fair for Brock Bowers, but knowing I might be caught holding the bag and left in the dust here. But just with that little inch of buying a guy that we've been excited about for 3 years, I'm just not going to take this. I'm not going to lose sight of the focus. I'm not going to lose sight of what's ahead, and I'm still going to try to buy if I can. But again, if the price is up, you're not going to get me to overpay. I'm not going to act as if he's already producing, but I will pay enough to get the 108, 107, wherever that is, and whatever that price kind of correlates throughout the league. Mm-hmm. So I'm buying just on that premise alone. We got 3 more names. Let's kind of zip through these. So I definitely want to get to the TGIF trade of the week. Next guy, Blake Corum, drafted by the Los Angeles Rams with the 19th pick in the 3rd round. He is going to be paired up with pretty similarly skilled and similar athletic profile guy in Kyren Williams. Are you buying or selling Blake Corum?
I'm going to do another cop-out here. Same answer here that I gave for Brian Thomas Jr. with Blake Corum. I'm going to buy him. I think he's an awesome player. I think he's an unbelievable player. Michigan fan here. But I do still think that Kyren Williams is going to get bell cow usage pretty early in the season. And I think once we see that, the market on Blake Corum is going to get a bit upset. We saw 2 years ago, we all thought Cam Akers was going to be a big breakout, and then Darrell Henderson is getting the rock. And then the same thing happened last year with Cam Akers and Kyren Williams. But the interesting thing about that was that Cam Akers still wasn't even getting that many touches. Like it was just like literally the Rams focus on one running back. That's just what they do. They have one guy come in every once in a while. And I'm sure Blake Corum could get some, short yardage carries and stuff like that. He is a more explosive Kyren Williams. But Kyren Williams proved he can play football, proved he understands that Sean McVay offense, and McVay likes that. It's just, he just likes it. And so I'm not I'm not happy also hearing Sean McVay saying that they took Blake Corum because they reminded him of Kyren Williams. I think that signifies that it's going to be Kyren Williams' backfield. And if he goes down, Blake Corum's going to get the same usage. Or it might eventually evolve into a 50-50 thing. But I think at the very least, it's going to be early in the season Kyren as Blake Corum kind of gets warmed up. And when that's happening, I think you'll be able to buy Corum pretty cheap because we're all going to get the flashbacks of these Rams running backs from the last few seasons. And remember, oh yeah, they do kind of just focus on one guy and make them the dude. And so, yeah, I don't think their philosophy is going to change. So as much as I like Blake Corum, Kyren Williams has done enough to earn my trust as a football player. He just has.
I don't think what you said is a cop-out. I just think it's the best process. I think you sell now and buy later. A year from now, we might be looking at Blake Corum very similarly the way we look at Kendre Miller, where he was the incumbent. We loved him. His price was up, then it tanked. And then you could maybe get back in the offseason because what they did by selecting him in the third round was really just solidify the running back position. This team's been plagued with being very thin at running back. Kyren Williams was hurt last year. They had to pick up D'Angelo Williams or Henderson off the street. A couple of years ago, they didn't have the backups to fill in. It just, they wanted to make sure that they weren't stuck with, the backups that they've had that were unreliable and weren't gamers. I do think that is the Kyren show for all of 2024 if he's healthy. So I'm selling now with the idea to buy later because Blake Corum's not going to give up. No. And you know what might be good for him as a player is having almost a year in terms of rejuvenating that knee. We saw a lot of efficiency numbers dip, a lot of his, breaking tackles, yards per outrun, yards per carry, all this stuff kind of dipped after the knee injury. Might not be a bad thing to have him give his first year being a semi-redshirt year for the Rams. So I'm selling now, buying later. I love that call. You mentioned him briefly a few minutes ago, but let's dive in right now. Ben Sinnott. Kansas State tight end gets drafted by the Washington Commanders with the 21st pick in the second round. He was the second tight end off the board, the only tight end taken in round number 2. I already know you're buying, but tell us what about Ben Sinnott that attracts you and where are you looking to take him in rookie drafts?
Yeah, I mean, for one, he's an early declare, which we rarely see from the tight end position. And he was a receiving tight end in college with some decent production, which we also rarely see. So it was like 700 yards and 6 touchdowns around there, which is pretty good for a college tight end in one season. And then he uses his invite to the Senior Bowl and just blows people away. He was my second tight end at the Senior Bowl, unfortunately more because of size. I think that just Theo Johnson's just kind of giantness about him attracted me to him, but I did make Ben Sinnott my honorable mention. I called him the best route running tight end there. He had really, really good hands, super crisp and everywhere, really made some very, very clutch catches over the middle. And that's what he did in college too. He just shows up and makes big plays and plays well. And now he's going to the Washington Commanders, who spend the second round draft capital on him. I think that it's very, very important to get in on him, especially at price. He's going at the end of second round, sometimes third round in our rookie drafts right now, going around Jatavian Sanders. But Ben Sinnott tested better than him. He just like looks like a stud out there. Like and Jaden Daniels, right? You get a mobile quarterback. We've historically seen mobile quarterbacks lock onto their tight ends. We had Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, who was the tight end in Carolina that Cam Newton loved. Oh my God. Who was he? What was his name? Do you remember?
What was his? What?
The Panthers tight end that Cam Newton loved. Panthers tight end. What was that? 2014. Greg Olsen.
Of course, Greg. See, sometimes the answer is so obvious it just like evades your brain.
Yeah, but Cam Newton to Greg Olsen, Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews, Anthony Richardson to Jelani Woods, Jaden Daniels to Ben Sinnott.
So, but I think I'm buying Ben Sinnot too. I think that he's just coming at a fair price.
Yeah,
I right now have him as my tight end 3 in the class behind the Jatavian Sanders, but it's really more just because Zach Ertz is there, and I just don't know what that means in the fall of the position. Whereas in Carolina, it's just Tommy Tremble. I mean, there's a wide open chance for him to be the number 1 tight end on this offense, where Ben Sinnott does have potentially some other competition. But I like the player. I love the fit. I like where they got him in the second round. Washington had one of the best drafts in the entire league last weekend. And because the price isn't going all that high, I know he is gone. I've seen him go at the end of round 2. He just went at the end of round 2 in the mock we did this morning. But I was able to get Roman Wilson in the third, a few other names that could trickle up, which would just bring Ben Sinnott into the third. And at that price, I mean, I'm okay with that, especially my 1 QB leagues where I'm not really focusing on quarterbacks. I'm just trying to take all the other positions. Ben Sinnott's a nice little guy that you can, or nice little guy, that sounds terrible, is a nice player that you can get at a nice little value in rookie drafts. And if someone already did take him, if your rookie draft was before the NFL draft, I think buying right now, someone's going to think that they're coming away with a really steal if you offer them a 25 third. And I think that's perfect. I'm surprisingly buying Ben Sinnott right now. The last guy we're going to talk about, we both agree on the player. We both agree, but I want to know how much we agree here, Jay. Roman Wilson, a wide receiver from Michigan, goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 20th pick in the 3rd round. We're both in on Roman Wilson, but let's talk about how much are you in and how deep is your love for Roman Wilson?
Matty, Kiwoom, while you were talking about, I think maybe Blake Corum a few players ago when you were monologuing, I went to playerprofiler.com back end and changed my guys. And Roman Wilson is now officially a Jason Allwine guy.
You son of a bitch.
I had to do it. I had to do it.
He's going to be a great spot.
It's such a good spot. And we can talk about an Arthur Smith offense all we want, right? Where maybe the wide receivers aren't that efficient. But I'm not sure how much control he's totally going to have with the Steelers. I mean, it's still ultimately Mike Tomlin's team. And we've seen Deontay Johnson have wild success in Pittsburgh. And Roman Wilson, we talked about it on Wake and Take this morning, just a better Deontay Johnson. He's faster, a better route runner with better hands. I'm just going to say it. The dude was not just the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, arguably the best player. And it really wasn't that close, especially when we talk about the wide receivers. And Ladd McConkey was there and looked really, really good. But Roman Wilson didn't finish out the week, had the highlight reel after highlight reel early, was a great interviewer, has the dog in him. We've all heard the airplane story from high school, taking the plane to school for a month every single morning. He just has it. He gets the Michigan man, has over 50% of Michigan's receiving touchdowns last year. If that's not clutch, I don't know what is. And so I think Roman Wilson is going to a really good offense with a really good role for him too. George Pickens can take those deeper shots, some of the outside work. Roman Wilson can work completely over the middle, but not even that. I mean, he's a good outside threat as well. He has track speed at 4.39 too. He's a burner. He's a route runner. He's got good hands. He also is a good blocker too, where he picked that up in Michigan. And I think Mike Tomlin's going to love that. This is a true stud. And I'm taking Roman Wilson over Ricky Pearsall, over Xavier Legette, and probably some of those others too, as we get into that range, taking him over a lot of the running backs. I'm taking Roman Wilson over Blake Corum. I really love Roman Wilson right now, and a great value. I think he's just going to keep steaming up too.
Yeah, right now I'm at wide receiver 7, and I love the situation. I think this really does hurt anyone that was banking on George Pickens becoming like an alpha, a true Super Saiyan in fantasy, because this guy is just going to do the right things. He's going to wow the coaches, and Mike Tomlin's gotten to know him. He saw him at the Senior Bowl when you were down there. He saw him call out Quinyon Mitchell and win. He's seen Roman Wilson throughout the process, and you know what? We've talked about it a couple times in terms of just why the hype around him died. It wasn't really that the hype around him died. It was that others were able to garnish some hype. We saw some insane 40 times in Indy and so on and so forth. And I bet Mike Tomlin was sitting back going, yep, you go take Ricky Pearsall. Go take your Xavier Legette. Go ahead and take him. I'm going to go ahead and wait until the 3rd round and get Roman Wilson, a consummate pro, someone that's going to fit the offense perfectly. And we got him as a Stephon Diggs cop on Player Profile. Yeah, there's some projectability there, but there was also a hell of a lot of projectability in Stephon Diggs when he came out and was he was a 5th round pick and played as the number 2 on a team. So we know that the path is there. We know the ability's there. And now it's just a matter of getting your hands on Roman Wilson before the rest of your league tunes in Jason and I and the rest of Player Profile and realize oh shit, this kid is for real. So that's it. 10 players: Michael Penix Jr., Jaylen Wright, Brenden Rice, Drake Maye, Brian Thomas Jr., Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers, Blake Corum, Ben Sinnott, and Roman Wilson. We went through our buys and our sells. Now, Jason, let's get in to the TGIF trade of the week. Woo. Oh, I've messed up the cameras here.
Oh, God.
Why have I lost Jay? Which one am I doing here? Oh, that's why, because we had all of our we messed with so many things at the draft that, so bear with us here. Sorry, folks, for the technical difficulties. Probably should have done this before the show, but it's okay. We're here now.
We're good.
We're ready to rock and roll. Bada bing, bada boom. We're ready to talk about the TGIF trade in the room, and it involves my man Jay here again. He was able to get the 105, a pick that I'm going to let him tell you what he has done with it. After starting the show, we'll talk about what he did with it. This guy's just basically signed over his own personal nightmare by acquiring this 105, but he got it from our friend John McGlynn. First of all, let's take a minute to shout out John McGlynn. We were able to meet him in person. And what was Stone Ridge? What was this, the town? Stockridge Bowling Alley. We got to meet him and his wife. They were awesome. And it was just want to give a big shout out to Mr. McGlynn, who made this trade with you, and just he's been a part of the fantasy community. He's the man. But the 105, you gave away Gabe Davis, Nico Collins, and Michael Maye. So I just want to tell you, great job. Say sorry, John. This is an absolute lopsided trade, in my opinion. Sorry. But it wasn't what it happened 15 days ago. So, John, this isn't your fault. You can't predict the future. But I want to talk to you, Jay, about this. Mm-hmm. When you label players on your team as time bombs based on free agent fallout, draft fallout, camp fallout, competition fallout, what is the importance of getting out of players before it's too late? And did you feel that time bomb ticking or hear that time bomb ticking when you were in relation to Gabe Davis and Michael Maye?
Not Michael Maye. I don't think
Michael Maye. I would have called you a liar if you said Michael Maye, and that's why I understand why John was a lot more excited about Maye just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I was too. Like, that was like, it was kind of hard to make this trade, but ultimately I always have an issue in trade gods. I'm always over the roster limit. So for me to be able to do a 3-for-1, it was good. And I have another team in a player profiler patron league where I've got CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. So it was just like, I've got my Texans on lock in another league. So it was kind of fine being able to part with Nico, as much as it hurts. I mean, I love him. Again, Michigan fan, was all in on the Texans last season before, when no one else was. So it hurt. But I did expect Gabe Davis. I did kind of view him as a ticking time bomb. I know I named him a buy, a couple months ago when he got the contract. I liked it a lot. But then as we got closer to the draft, I just started seeing Brian Thomas Jr. getting
the drum beat was getting louder and louder. They were going to go receiver. Yep. And
I was like, I gave Davis in a few leagues because unfortunately I did make that buy in a few leagues to get some Gabe Davis on my teams. And in this one, this was the only one I was able to offload him. And I mean, I think, if Brian Thomas doesn't go there, it works out great. And I still think that there's going to be some weeks here, but he does definitely become more of the boomer bust Gabe that he used to be with Brian Thomas going there. So anyway, I do think I've won this trade, and I'm very sorry, John. But we do have to amend what I gave up because, Matty Kiwoom, there's been a development while we've recorded even to where I did trade back for this 105.
Yeah, so this guy went from the 105 to the 103 to the 105. He is literally pulling a draft day. He is draft day.
Yeah, and I lost value too. I sent out an offer moving up from the 105 to 103 because I started feeling really, really confident about Drake Maye. And then it kind of came up for me to pick Drake Maye, and I totally got cold feet and wanted to trade back. So I gave up the 105, a 26 second, a 24 third, and 225 thirds to get up. I traded back to the 105 and basically lost my 25 third. So I got the 26 second back. I got the 24 third back. So basically I gave Nico Collins, Michael Maye, Gabe Davis, and 225 thirds for the 105. I'll take it. Just take it. And hopefully I can get some JJ McCarthy. Hopefully I don't get sniped on him. And there's also still a chance at the 105 I could still get Drake Maye. But I did not feel good when I got up to that 103. You saw me. I felt terrible. I did not like that responsibility at all. I was like, wait a second. Do I really want Drake Maye over Jaden Daniels? Do I really want JJ McCarthy here? And it was just, I couldn't make the decision. I wanted the decision to get made for me at 105. BTTJ, congratulations on your free 3rd round picks. And I'll just have to take the L on it on that regard, but I'll take the win on this trade in particular.
There it is. There it is. The saying that we say here in the trade gods all throughout, no matter how you approach a particular player, it's this. Remember, sharks don't swim backwards. You make a trade you don't like, you can always trade your way out of it. You don't like your team, you can trade your way out of it. Keep pushing forward. Keep making the moves. And John, push forward. If you want to get rid of Maye or Davis, I'll take him for free.
And Nico, Nico could like outscore Malik Neighbors this year, right? Roma Dunze. I mean, come on.
I know
I'm a Nico guy, but come on.
I don't see it. I don't see it, but it's okay. He's a good player. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I don't know if I see it, but that's it. That's the trade, and that is the show, my friend. Woo! It was a good one. It was an absolute fire episode. Please tell the people where they can find you, where they can get all the stuff, and tell them what's about to be dropping.
Yes, so you can follow me everywhere now. I have made JFootballWine a handle on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and now Instagram, trying to, kind of spread that out a little bit. But mostly follow me on Twitter, as I'm getting close to 1,000. I'm like 816 followers right now. If we could get up to 1,000, that'd feel really good.
Get him up to 1,000. Stop messing around. Get the man to 1,000. Yeah. It's long overdue.
Yeah, right?
Get them into 10,000. What are we doing here, folks?
Nah,
that's got to be followed. We're getting there. We're getting you there. Get there.
One day. The Schultz report followed me. That felt really good.
That was great. That was awesome.
That felt pretty cool. So you can follow me on social media. You can tune into Wake and Take here on Player Profiler, 10 a.m. Monday through Friday Eastern time. On all the Twitter, TikTok, or not TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find it here. And that's pretty much it in terms of what I'm working on right now. Just running the Player Profiler social media and my own thing in these shows. So just keep tuning into Trade Gods and Wake and Take.
Shows. The grind never stops. Follow me on X at Matty Kiwoom. My grades for all 32 teams and a little bit of fantasy talk for each team is over at playerprofiler.com right now. Make sure you go click that, share that, and make sure you're diving into it. Make sure you're liking this video. Subscribe to the Player Profiler YouTube channel, the Player Profiler News YouTube channel. Go ahead and leave a comment about some trade stuff. What rookies did you like? What rookies you don't like? What trades you might be having in your league? And we'll definitely get to you. But folks, one last thing before you tap out and tune out. I got to say, onemission.org is raising money for kids' cancer. Okay, and on May 5th, they're doing the One Mission Buzz Off, and I've decided to nominate the mullet. The mullet's days are numbered. We're raising money for kids' cancer here. Head over to mybuzzoff.org/page/Matt DeRojas and donate for a good cause. I didn't know that this was going to be capable. I thought I was just going to be doing it for myself, but they're giving me the opportunity to raise a little bit of money, and it would be honored to help out such a great cause. We're going to put the link in the bio so you can get it there. But if you don't see it in the bio, if you forget, find me on Twitter. I'll get it to you. Whatever we can do to raise money before the 5th, we're going to go ahead and do it. Jason, you are the man. You are my brethren. It was awesome hanging out with you, Detroit. We're going to have to do it again soon. Figure out a way to either come up north or head down to the dirty. Yeah. But he's Jason Allwine. I'm Matty Kiwoom. We are the Trade Gods, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.